behind you.
Right.
And they don't bite. And we learned a lot about wildlife. They don't bite in the water at all. They might have bitten us on land or attacked us or something if we annoyed them.
Right.
But on the water, they never did. They just followed us.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
So tell me about collaborating with your husband. What is that like?
Well, it's very interesting and very time-consuming. I had collaborated for years with a group we called Toxic Shock, a group of women, before Tom and I were even together. Mm-hmm. And we made several noteworthy works of art and even were featured on some level in a show the Dallas Museum did several years ago to talk about the history of the Dallas art community, because we 5 women mm-hmm. Really had a beautiful collaborative process that was very intellectual and very satisfying in that we did things that not one of us would have done by ourselves.
Right.
We only together would these works of art have been come to fruition or even come to a thought. So anyway, I was very prepared to collaborate, and I'm not sure that Tom was, but for some reason I guess he saw the benefit, because as a married couple, as a couple, we are a team. Mm-hmm. We divide tasks. We even talk about division of labor is one of the secrets of marriage.
Right.
Because if you handle that, I'll handle this. We'll communicate. We'll discuss. Then we'll plan. And so that's what collaboration is. Mm-hmm. And we even built a house together, which is really one of the hardest things to do.
Right.
Designed and built, and we're our own contractors. So we have had.
They say if your marriage can survive that, you're on solid footing.
Right, and we know that, so we know that we can do it. So working together is actually just good sense, because I have skills that he doesn't. He has skills that I don't, and so you put them together and you get even more from the team. But people like for us to work together, for I'm not exactly sure why, and so we've been asked to do things together almost more than we want to.
Right.
Because we don't want to become just a team. We each have individual things to say and careers and art to make that is not collaborative.
Absolutely.
But our very most important collaborative project was the Dallas Opera's 50th anniversary production of Nabucco.
Right.
And that was just an amazing experience. When the opera came to us and said, would we want to do this, I think almost all artists, especially three-dimensional artists, but I bet painters too, because I know David Hockney's done it. All kinds of great painters have done sets for productions, mm-hmm. whether they're opera or dance or something else. And I think both of us in years past have daydreamed about doing that. But there's a huge learning curve if you're doing something for a production that's established.
Right.
And so that was our response. There's too much to learn to prepare for this actual production of Nabucco. And they said, oh no, well, we have a technical person that will figure all the technical aspects out and will mm-hmm. hold your hand in your designs to be sure that they can be translated.
Right.
Well, that's all we needed.
Sure.
I mean, that was dynamite, because this guy was brilliant, wonderful, patient, fabulous.
Sure.
And as artists who had built lots of big things ourselves, we were not daunted at all by the idea of designing mm-hmm. these sets. It was right up our alley, and just worked beautifully. We also said to the opera, we don't know a lot about opera. We've both been mm-hmm. to the opera. We have some concept, but we're not opera buffs, and they said, oh, that's actually good.
Right.
Because you'll bring something new and you won't feel bound by what's been done before.
Sure.
So we watched every production of Nabucco that we could find in film and video, and knew immediately what we didn't want to do.
Right.
We felt that every production had the same problem, and that was that in this opera Nabucco, there are so many people on stage at the same time that you've got to first separate them somehow so you know who they are, and you've also got to elevate them because you just have a whole bunch of people on the floor of the stage.
Right.
It's just a mess. And even, the Metropolitan didn't do what we did. And so we were really proud of ourselves in terms of designing sets that were modular, would turn into lots of different things in an abstract way, and that elevated the various characters when they were on stage together, so that and also color-coded them with light. So you would know who was a Hebrew and who was a Babylonian because of what they were wearing, or what color light was on them, or how they were interacting on the set, etc. So it was a super experience for us.
And so when the opera came to you, did they encourage you to be as contemporary as you wanted to be? I mean, is that, in my mind, one of the decisions a company would need to make is, hey, can we breathe new life into a 150-year-old piece about something that happened 3,000 years ago, saying, how can we make this look and feel contemporary? Right?
Well, yeah, they certainly did imply that we could go in our direction. And at the time, they had a director who had done this in Europe a lot. And so consequently, she done it with artists, and so she wanted to try to implement that here in Texas. Now they haven't done it again with artists, so we're not sure that in the long run they appreciated the avant-garde or experimental nature of what we did. Because they've gone, right back to where not totally. Now they're able to do a lot of video projection in the new theater.
Right.
We were still at the music hall, so you couldn't do some of that technology. But anyway, yes, they gave us an open-ended charge, and we actually found that the theater, having been a visual artist all these years, there's a difference in the aesthetics of theater, which was very liberating. We felt that their aesthetic was much more open-ended than a visual artist aesthetic, because we're taught as visual artists to own our aesthetic and to put parameters around it. This is within the boundary that I work as an artist. But when you're doing theater, you have to go in whatever direction works.
Right.
So when we would try things, they were almost more open to it than we know a visual criteria might have been. Like, for instance, when we came up with the idol for the Babylonians, the ball. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was another word that went with that. But anyway, we tried many things. I even made bulls and various things. But in the opera, that he has to be destroyed. And so we needed to figure out how to destroy him without them having to rebuild him every day or whenever. So having worked with all these taxidermy animals that I've collected, I had a squirrel, a skin plug, they call them, just the form of a squirrel with no detail. And he was exactly the right size for this large model that Tom had made. Tom is the expert model builder. So I painted him gold and stuck him in there and said, trying to actually shock them a little bit to see how far they let us go.
Right.
I said I'd like to see something real organic and almost grotesque here for this idol.
Right.
And they loved this thing. and because you really couldn't tell what it was. You had no idea. And we would never tell until the opera was finished that it was actually a squirrel, because people thought it was a gecko or some lizard or whatever. And so, of course, we didn't build these sets, and that was great. We supervised them being built with a set company. But so they carved life-size, 12 feet, this squirrel, and then made a half impression in fiberglass, so that this is an opera trick or a theater trick that we learned from them. By painting the half shell of a translucent material gold, and shining light on it, he was gold. When you shine light behind it, he turned transparent again. So that's the way we destroyed him, is the lightning struck and the light shined from behind instead of from in front, and he became transparent, and all you had was his skeleton in there.
Wow.
And so that was very effective, and we were really excited about that part of it.
Have you been approached to do any other theater design since then?
No, we haven't, and we would have liked to.
Yeah.
We were disappointed in a way, that because we would have liked to have done more.
Right.
It was really a very intense and exciting experience.
So, are you working on anything in this studio right now? Like, are you working towards any shows, or is it really public art that's on?
Right now, public art is the primary focus. Always looking for possible exhibitions. As of the last few years, I have decided not to be affiliated with a gallery, because I've realized it's not fair to the gallery, because I'm not interested in making work that sells right now. I've certainly done it in the past and been satisfied by it, and but I don't want to feel like I need to make a certain kind of work for them, which is only fair.
Right.
And more galleries, though, are willing to show experimental work. And at some point I may again, affiliate with a gallery. But right now I want no sense of obligation beyond myself, because I'm needing that time to, get back into another direction, or no, that's not exactly, not another direction, but another body of work.
Got it. That
doesn't need anything imposed on it.
Where can people find out more about your work? Where can they find you?
Well, that's a good question too. Well, certainly at my website, which is not totally up to date, but has a good cross section of work from the past. And I'm starting to post on Instagram, which seems to be the new way that people really know what other people are doing. And I think I've got Frances Bagley Art, where personal things are going on another site, but I'm only putting art on that one. And I have some permanent work around the town of Dallas and in Japan and a few other places, but I'm not real easy to find, and that's an interesting question. Makes me admit it.
So what is your web address? Is it
It's francesbagley.com.
Okay, so francesbagley.com, and we think Instagram is at Frances Bagley Art.
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate getting to sit down and talk to you about where you've been and where you're going, and I really appreciate you taking time out on a weekend to have a conversation.
Well, thank you. You've been real delightful to talk to.
Okay. Thank you.